So yeah, welcome you all to our collective calls that we hold every Tuesday and Thursday. Today's Thursday, and yeah, we're glad to meet everyone here. So hosting today's meeting as always, Ivan and Malika. And as I said previously, we've got two projects today to present the pitch deck, answer questions, and just to have a nice discussion here. So let me introduce them real quick. We've got Russell, uh, representing Unicorn.eth, co-founder, and Lojac, or I don't know, obviously, we got Alpaca Network here to present their project as well. And just to you guys, remind you real quick, if you're first time here, how we usually do such calls. So you have 5 minutes for the pitch part and about 10 minutes for the Q&A section. We'll set a timer somewhere to keep track of time. And when it's 1 minute left until the presentation ends, we will remind you. And yeah, meanwhile, our viewers, participants here prepare some questions and they can address that in the chat, or alternatively just raise their hand and ask directly. And yeah, thanks for connecting. Be sure to check your screen when you're sharing and the camera as well. And yeah, welcome everyone here. So let's get started, and I'll pass the mic to Russell. If you don't mind, please go ahead, be the first one.
So also my co-founder Gardner is on the call too. So say hi to everybody. So I'll go ahead and get started. I'm Russell, and Unicorn.eth, my unicorn account, is trying to change the way we do membership infrastructure. We've seen how most Web3 projects fail, and they fail like before they even started because there's no basic membership infrastructure that they can use. And what that means is that people get this awkward experience of using a wallet and all the downsides of that when they haven't even been onboarded into Web3 at all. So you can use a wallet for a lot, but you need a whole lot more to do account infrastructure. And that's the problem that we're really solving, because we believe that brands and communities should be able to engage and grow their communities and monetize their communities without all the complexities that are around Web3 and without the data problems and integration problems of Web2. If you look at like this big list of companies, the thing that they have in common is all of them have had enormous costs associated with membership infrastructure. It costs them billions. But then you have to add on that all of them have had major security breaches, which resulted in audits, fines, settlements, and the fact that their community data was compromised. So what happened is they were all entrenched in Web 2, and they couldn't even comply with the basic laws and regulations that are coming out of Europe and California. Anybody who's run a community knows that brands of all sizes, in addition to security and implementation, the biggest challenge that they have if they're trying to generate revenue is to monetize their communities. And it's a kind of simple monetization that you can do in one click, right? That's really a key factor to doing that. And there's nothing better than Web3 for monetization. It is like you're only limited by your imagination. There's all sorts of things, and we're developing new things all the time. The catch is that our UX is heinous. It's absolutely horrible right now, and only the bravest of people, even when you're a native, is going to do it. So that's why such a low percentage of people are doing that, because of the friction, because of the scams, because of the theft. There are any number of reasons why new people are hesitant to get in. We bridge the gap between Web 2 and Web 3 for membership organizations of all size and provide payment efficiency, the rails that they need, monetization, as well as the account infrastructure that you need to get from Web 2, because you have to have a database. The community ends up not being blocked by all these other weird concepts that are new to people that are not already in Web 3. And by the way, we've already implemented this for our first customer, which was ETH Denver. And if you haven't gotten your ticket yet, you can go to the app.ethdenver.com and you can see our system working. We're actually their account system for ETH Denver 2025. In the case of ETH Denver, I was the chief of staff last year for it. And for the past 6 years, or 7 years now, we've never had a really adequate account infrastructure system. And we didn't want to use Web 2 because that's the whole idea behind ETH Denver. And it's been a uniformly horrible experience for everyone. And this year, with the Unicorn.eth team, ETH Denver was able to have 2-minute onboarding, automatic staking, airdropping. Anyone who's done it, the comments that we get from people who have tried this are like, this is unbelievably amazing. We also give analytics on the community, so you know exactly who's logged in, what they get their own subdomain as well, which is another exciting feature, what they've done, what their actual wallet address is, and what dApps they're actually interacting with. We see our main opportunity is fully leveraging Web3 where appropriate and Web2 where necessary. And with those two things have to be married to be able to let you have these web accounts that run on the Web3 rails, have the smart wallet, a smart contract wallet, and leverage a Web2 UI that makes it appropriate for anyone from age 8 to 80, because we have a walled garden approach that locks down any contracts, even any tokens that they'll be able to access through the wallet. Our business model is really simple. Subscription fees are the primary way, as well as professional services. And then there are transaction fees and other fees that are more, more potential. We haven't necessarily seen exactly how those are going to work, but we can see them conceptually being in there. For instance, like custom dApps for a community. But the big thing is communities will be able to leverage dApps as opposed to doing like really metal-to-metal integrations like you do in Web2. Whether you're talking about Wild Apricot to X, the platforms that are out there don't fully serve communities. And there are ways to generate revenue, but they have to go out, whether you're using YouTube or using X or whatever it is. It's not all there, and it doesn't include the payment rails. We've already had great partnerships and great traction. ENS gave us the grant that started us out. We've been accepted into Bufficorn Ventures and just signed a deal with Orange DAO. We've already mentioned ETH Denver. We already have over 3,500 members, and we'll have 25,000 by the time we get to the event in February. And we're working with Giveth so we can work to make sure that nonprofits and projects can get the funding that they need and deserve. We're looking for an early round of $500,000 closing in mid-January, basically for the team expansion, to work with our 25,000 user base that we'll have to further matriculate exactly what the offerings that are going to be most appealing, onboarding 5 new brands that are sort of the same scope of ETH Denver, and handle, of course, infrastructure costs for that. Our founders are me, hi. And I've been in web commerce, e-commerce, and crypto commerce for forever, as well as digital identity and in crypto since 2015. Gardner's on here. He's been a 2-time founder and an OG crypto since 2013. Griff Green is probably the most well-known white hat DAO hacker in the world, and 3-time founder and also the founder of Giveth. And so we welcome you to invest in the future of membership infrastructure. Once again, we're looking to raise a $500,000 round in a safe for a $20 million valuation. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you guys for the great pitch. Looking forward to hearing questions from the audience. Meanwhile, let me remind you real quick that we post all the contact details on Telegram handles here in the chat as well, so you can get in contact with our speakers in there. So yeah, to Q&A, guys, feel free to address any questions in the chat or by raising your hand. Okay, while we're waiting, let me be the first one addressing the question. So how do you see the long-term goals of the project?
Long-term, we want to, so right now, membership infrastructure is all Web2. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Our thesis is that you can do membership infrastructure more safely, have a lot more fine control. Like these membership platforms that exist now have no way to comply with the data regulations and data sovereignty regulations that have come out of Europe and California and some of the other states in the United States. So there's a huge compliance risk with those. With Web3, when you can have a wallet that's self-custodied that contains a lot of that, you don't have to worry about holding on. Now, a brand may choose to get more information from their communities, but they don't have to. And so what we think is that we can actually do memberships better and cheaper than the Web2 providers that are already out there, and do it in a way that that really respects privacy to the extent that that the member and the community will tolerate. And that's going to be very different depending on what the community is. But you could conceivably have a community of people that were anons if you wanted to, or you could have a community of people that are playing some Web3 version of Pokemon. And because we have, security that's a walled garden based on the community, it's appropriate for either one of those. And there's just nothing else like that in the Web2 world.
And if I could just jump in on the security side of things based on the question in the chat as well. If you go to slide 8, Russell, I think it's really important to recognize that within each of the accounts that are set up by the brands, there is essentially an app center where only allow listed contracts and applications are incorporated within the account infrastructure. So if someone receives their, in this case, nikki.ethdenver.com wallet, which is not only an address, but it's also a profile page. So it resolves both in a DNS and an ENS atmosphere. But they cannot connect with any other contracts that are not allow listed by the brand that is setting up, in this case, ETHDenver, the account infrastructure for their members. So that's one of the main ways that we are able to reduce the threat vector for the individuals that are using the application that is given by the brand or business.
And I think it's important. Thank you for pointing that out, Gartner. I think it's really important to remember that this isn't meant to be the replacement for your everyday wallet. What this is meant to be, is membership infrastructure that leverages a wallet and that has a walled garden so that the community itself can be a safer place. We all still have wallets. We all do things. If you want to go get every airdrop in the world, that's fine. But until we have a safe environment for brands and communities, they're not going to do, every time they want to use Web3, it's going to be potentially a career limiting experience. And we have to make it so they can be proud of it. So Julia, what inspired you to create a solution that bridges the gap between Web2 and Web3 for brands? I think, for me, having experienced it firsthand, whether from the government side, so I did did the first digital driver's license in Colorado for the United States, and before that, I had a lot of other projects, and then with ETHDenver as a chief of staff, seeing the pain associated with membership, and also seeing that pure Web3 applications are great, but you do need databases. You do need a lot of these things, this infrastructure, to be able to make something safe. But I have 2 kids, and they played games. And I was like, why can't they use this technology too? And I have parents, and my parents are now up in their 80s. It's like, why can't they use that technology too? Because it really can be simple enough. And having to put everybody that you recommend to use a DApp at risk of being scammed or phished or something, it's a lot. It's a lot, and it's a lot of guilt if you actually recommend it and suddenly they were one of the ones. Like just think about it. If you recommended Celsius to somebody and they had, I felt really guilty about that. And we can't have that be the case with Web3 and memberships. We have to have something that's secure, that we can depend on, that we can bank on.
All right, thank you guys for answering that. Malika, did we ask the second question? Because
the one from Diana?
Yeah.
So that's a great question too. It's how can we give an example of how we've transformed it? I think already, Diana, I don't know if you've attended ETHDenver in the past. I don't know if you've tried to sign up and gone through that, it's been a very, very bizarre process because we always tried to make it a Web3 process, but we had 40% of our attendees have no Web3 experience at all. So we had to make it good for OGs and good for natives and good for newbies. Last year, it was almost probably the worst year of all. That was where newbies couldn't figure it out. And OGs couldn't figure it out either. It was just people who were willing to put in the time and slog through it. And we just couldn't do that anymore. And to be true to our principles, we didn't want to go to a Web2 platform because we felt it was disingenuous, if that's what ETHDenver is all about. So with the best thing that speaks for it is if you look at it. But literally, you go in, if you've already been a member, you connect a wallet just to prove that you have staked Spork, which is the membership token. If not, You log in with either an email or Gmail. You get assigned you can claim a subdomain, something like on the screen. It's nikki@ethdenver.com. You could check if Diana was on there. It probably is, but you never know. And you claim that. It assigns you a smart wallet, a smart contract wallet, and then it airdrops you a token. It automatically stakes it for you, pulls in the information that we need. Because we're a Colorado co-op, we actually have information that we have to capture from you. We store that, and then you're now eligible for a free ticket to ETH Denver. That's a whole lot of stuff on the back end. And seeing it happen smoothly in the space of literally 2 minutes, that's all most people need to understand how important and how powerful this really is.
Okay, perfect.
I just put a link in the chat for people to look at later, but it goes through the process of how simple it is for anyone to sign up and claim an account for, in this case, the ETH Denver brand. And we're able to do that for any brand or business. We have a few lined up already, and we're seeing that brands are desperate for this, bridging the gap between Web2 and Web3, making sure that their community members, regardless of their technical ability, are able to join their communities.
Yeah, and I should also point out, like with ETH Denver, I don't know if many of you saw, but they announced distribution this week. So basically, anybody who's attended ETH Denver in the past or hacked or whatever got patronage tokens, sport tokens. You didn't buy them; you were awarded them. And anyone who staked, which is part of the membership, for all the time that you had Spork staked over the last event year, you got credit for it and did a USDC distribution based on how much you actually had, which was the first time. It's kind of the opposite of monetization, but it's monetization from the perspective of members. And now there's a place for all those people that have gone to say, oh, I want to make sure I can stake. I want to make sure I can see what's going on. In the past, it was just a hodgepodge of different URLs that they had to know, and they had to go back to a Notion page that they might be able to find, or an email they might be able to find to be able to do it. And then when you think about bringing in things like voting, right? We had a vote this past summer for the board. Those kinds of things, they're now just part of the dashboard that you go to and part of the dApp center that you go to. These are the whitelisted dApps that are part of your community.
Okay, guys, thank you for the great pitch.
Do you have, I understand that your main business model is like subscription. Are you planning to earn money other ways besides subscription?
Well, primarily we think it's going to be subscription revenue and professional services. We're not really looking, we don't really know that we have a purpose for a token or anything like that. So it's not like we're looking at a token. We're also like dApps, so custom dApp development for communities. And that's something that the professional services team would be doing, right? Creating that, as well as you could have other teams that are doing it too. And then reselling those dApps to the communities for a pretty small fee. So we're not talking about a lot of money from there. And then things like swap fees and transaction fees based on DEXs and exchanges, where appropriate. We're not really leaning into the pure Web3 trading stuff because we really do want to bring the Web2 people in, but there's no reason why those communities can't use it. And if they are going to be they are going to have a token, they are going to have these kinds of things, then there would be some small fraction of the fees that would also come into us.
Okay, got you. Thanks. Yeah, Gardner?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's a pretty, like the last one, Russell, if you could go to slide 12. I think that is a pretty unique offering in terms of all the possibilities that a brand can actually achieve within their own having their own account platform, where there is the possibility of them to actually get some level of revenue from the actual swaps that occur within their own account. And this is not offered anywhere else. And as Russell mentioned, it's not a huge part of our business, but it is in order to motivate and align interests of both brands and our ecosystem as well.
Okay.
Another interesting thing about it, is that because it's primarily Web3 technology, scaling it is less of an issue because it's all the computing side of it is also distributed, right? So it doesn't mean like it needs that you can have a band that has a following that it's growing from 250 people up to hopefully Taylor Swift level, right? Or you can have a community that's based on software development, or a community based on public interests, whatever, or interests that they're shared. Regardless of the size, they can really take advantage of the platform, and because the payment rails are integrated, they can sell stuff so easily, and it removes the friction. If you're doing PayPal or something like that and you're a group, and I know this is primarily Web2, but it's a huge problem for them. Their money's tied up for a month minimum, right? And this gets them their money much more quickly. It means that even if you're like a brand that has dispensaries in a particular, cannabis dispensaries, they can go that way and they can do commerce over this as well. So it's a lot more than just what we would normally think of in the Web3 space. That's a given, right? The Web3 assets, the putting out tokens, putting out NFTs and things like that. That's pretty self-evident. What I think is more interesting, because it's different, is that we're talking about IRL community and IRL commerce that this can enable, and it's the promise of Web3 and what we've all sort of intuitively known was in the world of the possible. But getting over the UI, getting the technologies that have come out and the standards that we're leveraging to enable this were fundamental and necessary. Back when I was doing my crypto commerce stuff in 2017, 2018, 2019, these things weren't available, right? But now they are. And it really has the potential to put any organization, any group on even keel without ever using Stripe or any of these other tools that are out there in addition to their community system.
Great. Yeah, thanks. And also another question, you started now in November with 3,000 users, right, registered, and you're planning to have 25,000 by February.
That's right.
What number of users are you now? And
we're just under 4,000 now. So okay. I think we're around 3,800. I would imagine that by January we'll have, early January we'll have doubled that number. We'll be up in the tens of thousands, because the closer you get to ETH Denver, the more people need to. Last year, ETH Denver, we had 22,000 people that got tickets, right? So we think that we'll get at least that many, if not more. So 25,000 is what ETH Denver is thinking. I think that they're right, that will be around what we're going to get this year.
Okay, yeah, thanks. It sounds reasonable.
I would just like to point out that it was mid-November that we launched to the public too.
Totally. Yeah, it's written, I think, in the blurb.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So thank you for your time. Just a quick last question. So what are your plans for 2025? You can answer that briefly.
And there is a question here in the chat, Ivan. So you know.
Oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, I'll prefer the question from the chat. So yeah, don't mind mine. I recently got my MetaMask drained by a hack. So something like this won't happen with your wallets.
So just to clarify.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just to clarify, the wallet is distributed to the members within the brand account. So for instance, Unicorn could have a brand account where you would, in this case, have alvin.unicorn.com or MyUnicornAccount.com. You could have alvin.nike.com. Whatever the brand is, you are getting a wallet with that account. So think of it like airline. Airline programs have an account, and they also are accounting for all of your points within that. You don't really call it an airline wallet, but it really does come with a wallet, right? Now, so for the future, what if those airline points were actually interchangeable, right? You could trade your Delta points for your American Airlines points, and there would be swap fees on each of those brands. So that's kind of the concept here to frame it within. And to answer your question more directly, Alvin, yes, you would not be able to have your wallet drained within one of those accounts because you are not able to interact or connect with any accounts or contracts that are outside of that ecosystem that is allowed listed by that brand. So I hope that answers your question. And Russell, if you have any color on that, jump in.
Yeah, and I think that the key is that, this isn't meant to be a competition for MetaMask, right? This, if, your wallet that you use for good reasons. Now, if you have to use your wallet in order to do some things that that may put you at risk, but we're not trying to compete with wallet vendors. What we're doing is taking advantage of the functionality of wallets to do memberships the right way. And so if you're going to go grab airdrops and stuff, you're going to do that with whatever wallet you want. If you are interacting inside your community and you want to do things there, and the community is doing things, they're going to whitelist. They're going to whitelist various dApps, various contracts, various tokens, and you're going to be able to leverage it that way. We are talking about having a you can, instead of being a sponsored wallet, you could set up your own, right? So one off, and you can basically set it to where it's got default security or it's like YOLO. But that we wouldn't recommend that. That's not a community. That's for an individual. But like I said, we're not really trying to compete with MetaMask or with any real wallet providers. We're leveraging wallet technology because we think it's the key to membership.
And for those that are more technically aware, the standard that kind of undergirds our wallet system is ERC 4337. Which is the basics for account abstraction and smart contract wallets.
And there was another question. Let me see. What was the one that you asked, Ivan? I forgot it already.
Just
what were the plans for 2025?
Some thoughts about the roadmap.
Yeah.
Plans, upcoming plans.
Yeah. So we'll be going through the Orange DAO program in January. So we're really excited about that. January and February, we'll be coming out of that, going straight into ETH Denver. And what we would like to have is 3 to 5 more brands set up and using our system by the March-April timeframe, and be able to have fully automated integration, like a really smooth interface for the onboarding of brands themselves, and also be able to have a lot more discussions to find out what those brands and their members are most interested in having. And I think that it's one of those conversations. It's a little bit like trying to talk to somebody about like your crypto wallet before they've ever used a crypto wallet. You can't, right? They can't. So once we have, we'll have ETH Denver, we'll have three more brands at least that are up there. Then we'll have a framework that we can talk to these groups, these communities that want to do memberships in a different way, in a more cost-effective and a safer way for everyone. So I think we'll be teed up pretty well come April for that.
Okay, great to hear that, guys. Wish you the best of luck with that. Yeah, so obviously, as we said before, we had just one project here. So thank you guys for the pitch part. It was really exciting to hear you out. And yeah, wish you best of luck. And yeah, guys, just to remind you real quick that if you want to be a part of our community and go here and pitch another time, like maybe next week or so, we will post links for participation form. Basically, you can fill in and book a call, and we also will provide a link for the feedback. So yeah, you can obviously leave a feedback for Malika, please. Yeah, I see that already. So yeah, thanks for coming. That was a little sort of an AMA session format here, really interesting, but still, thank you guys for being here. Wish you the best of luck and great weekend, by the way. So see you soon. See you next week. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye. Thanks.
Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.